Hi, it's Rob from Game Developer Studio. This is the changelog video for GDS Editor version 1.655. This is actually the first video changelog that I'm doing, and probably should have been doing this from the start, but there always seems to be too much to do. So big changes for this version, and firstly, if this version breaks one of your files or you find that there's a bug in it and it stops you from progressing, you can roll back to the previous version from the link in the help menu. So from this version on, well, actually from the previous version, but as there was no video, you wouldn't have known, you can access the previous version of the editor through this link. So this is 1.55. If you need to roll back, you can use the earlier versions. Okay, so there's been quite a few quality of life improvements for this version. Firstly, you'll notice, or you might have already noticed, that there's actually tooltips on the icons and the buttons. So before in the editor it just relied on the browser's tooltip, but now there's a brand new tooltip system which will tell you what every icon does when you hover on it. So if you hover on an icon for more than half a second, you'll get what that icon does. So any time that you don't know what does this button do, you can just open it and it should tell you. So most of the things in the editor have got the tooltip now. There may be one or two lists left with just the default tooltip, the default browser tooltip, but mostly there's normally a tooltip with the new version. So if you get sick of that tooltip opening every time, so it might get annoying as you're zipping around the scene, getting tooltips opening all the time, you can turn those off in the application settings under clearing, and we can turn off the icon pulsing and the tooltips. So now when you move around the scene, you don't get the animations. I'm going to keep them on. Another useful addition is true cut and paste. So we can take any component. If I put some more components onto the scene, let's pop these on. So we can take any component or any batch of components and we can cut them from one scene. And if I come out of full screen for a moment and go to another scene in another tab, we can now paste in there. So we can now paste between tabs with cut and paste or copy and paste. There was copy and paste in GDS Editor before, but it only referenced components in the memory. Now it serializes components so you can copy them between tabs and scenes. Let's just clear these and take a look at some more features. Another improvement is the color picker window. So I'm just going to drop a component on the scene and let's have a look at its color. So now when we open the color picker, you can see that there's automatically a swatch list open. These are the most used colors in GDS assets. But there's also other swatches that you can pick if you want high saturation, skin tones, metals, woods. There's a swatch list there for you, ocean and 4 seasons. Furthermore, we can explore colors. So if we pick a color or we pick a color from the swatch, we can take a look at that color with the explore color theory, and that's going to open up the color exploration, and it's going to show us the complementary color, the split complementary color, and the triadic color. These colors are colors that are pretty much guaranteed to work well with each other. So if you ever need another color or you need to quickly know the complementary color from the color that you're working with, you can select it from there. As well as that, we can now deposit these color scales onto the scene for saving, like so, and then you're free to use them and keep them, use them across your assets in the scene. So at any point we can change our colors just by referencing these colors on the scene, or we can save them in our asset stash. Let's add it there, and that color swatch is going to be available to us across sessions. So the color picker windows had a bit of an upgrade, so you should find that a bit more useful. As well as the color picker upgrades, you'll see in the toolbar at the bottom there's been 2 new additions. We've got a line tool which pretty much functions like most line tools if you've used a line tool before. And we've got a ruler. So if we ever need to measure the distance across an area on the scene, a pixel distance, we can just quickly grab the ruler and it'll tell us the distance in pixels, the halfway point between any 2 points on the scene. The ruler tool is auto cancelling, so once you've measured, it will cancel and go back to your selector. That's actually by design, so if you do need to use it multiple times, you'll have to reopen it every time. But the R hotkey is set to ruler, so it's just a question of tapping R every time you want to measure the distance. In general, I think the ruler is a tool that's going to be used infrequently and most likely only once, so it's set to auto cancel after use by design. Going back to the line tool it's actually just a brush stroke tool like any of the brush strokes. So all these items, the path items in GDS Editor, which fall under the path category. So if we select an item, you can find out what type of component it is. You can see it's a path. The line tool also generates a path for us, as well as any manual brush strokes that you put on the scene. These are path tools, path components, sorry. Let's explore the line tool a little bit more in depth and see what functions it does. We don't need these now. So opening the line tool again. If you hold the line tool, if you open the line tool and just move around the scene with the mouse, you'll just make perfectly straight lines. If you don't want a closed shape, you can use the line tool to just make 2 points or however many points you need without closing it, and cancel the tool with the cancel key, and it will make the line to the last point. Or you can hit enter on the keyboard and it'll cancel, or you can just exit by selecting the select tool. All those will cancel the tool and create the line. Let's get rid of those. If you want to make a curvy line, you just drag the mouse, keep the mouse clicked down, and you can make your curvy line like a Bezier pen. If you want it to snap, just click on the last point. Like the brushstroke tool, if you want fill, you can set fill colors by the brush dialog, and you can set the stroke like any path stroke from the brush. As well as curves and curve editing, we can hold the Alt key and you'll snap the line to the axis with degrees of rotation. So I think that's about 15 degrees of rotation. So if you need horizontal or vertical lines or 45-degree lines, you can hold Alt and click to make the point, and that'll give you perfectly horizontal or vertical lines. One thing to note, I've been told that the Alt key in Firefox opens the settings menu or the old file bar, and there's no way to overwrite that. So the space key is also the Alt key. So if you're using Firefox, you can use the space key in exactly the same way as the Alt key. So let's clear that. As well as the pen tool, the brush tool has also had a major overhaul. If I come out of full screen, and we'll take a look at the old brush tool. So here's the old 1.6.54. As you can see, on the old version, there was only these 4 tool settings, these 4 brush presets, but I've gone ahead on the new version and made some much better presets. So in theory, you can now draw artistic lines. Let's set a nice color. Now you can draw a bit more artistic lines with a few more presets. Charcoal. Pencil. course the straight line and the airbrush has had a bit of improvement. Let's put a nice glowy colour on for that. The slider on the brush is maximum 100, but you can manually input up to 500 on the manual input if you need a really thick brush, like so. Also, the flattening seen major improvement. So if we select everything and with Control S, we can flatten into one single layer, which before took a couple of seconds to do. I've made some improvements to how that works and how long that takes. Let's put it back into full screen, and sticking with the brush tool, I'm going to show you something called pattern brushes. So now that we've got the brush, let's open the brush. I've still got it on that. Let's just set it to just the standard brush. Okay, so pattern brushes are special brushes that are actually patterns. So this is a GDS Editor core function, so we can import from the free library. They're also in the Essentials library if you're a GDS supporter. So the pattern brushes, let's open this, let's import this. We'll load it as a new scene. So pattern brushes are brushes that make patterns, like so. So if you want to decorate your scenes or decorate your UI panels, you can use these pattern brushes. Let's go ahead and bring in a UI panel. I'm going to let's bring in the parchment UI. Okay. So as you saw, we imported these, and now that they're imported, that means that the brush has these presets. These are brush shapes, so if we select this, we select the brush and we set this as the brush, you can see that we can now draw brush patterns. So if you want to decorate your UIs, let's take this for example, let's open the brush and let's select a nice square pattern, maybe this one. Let's pick a nice colour that'll go with this. I'll pick red for now, and holding Alt. No, let's hold Alt. There we go. We've now got a nice shape. So as this is a brush pattern, we can just shrink it down like so. Let's just use the opacity for now and just add some nice effects to any UI panel. That's it. And once you've applied that, you can just set the brush on it and change and find one that you like. You can manipulate the shape as you would any type of brush. Let's see. Let's move that onto the brush tool. Okay. As these are brushes, that means that you can set them onto anything. So you could pick a circle, and we can copy this brush stroke. Let's copy this brush style to the clipboard, and let's select this. Let's get rid of the fill, and let's paste that onto there. And as you can see, we've now made a nice little circle with the pattern brush, and this is fully editable. So if you find that the circle along the path doesn't fit nice, you can fully edit all the settings of the brush, so we can give it more spacing, or less spacing, just till you get it right. A handy trick if you find that square brush shapes make a jagged line, we can clean it up with a circle over the top. no fill. Like so. So you can make some really nice shapes with those, and you can test using each preset. More brushes are available in the libraries. So if we open this library, so far we've got animal print brushes. Once you've loaded them in, they'll become available on the brush, like so. So if you want animal prints in your scene, all you got to do is draw with the pattern brush, and you can make loads of patterns. Once you've made some nice patterns, we can edit them. So each stroke in GDS Editor is its own component, so you're free to drag it around and position it where you want. But furthermore, there's now a line edit tool. Let's get rid of that one, let's work on this one. There's now a line edit tool, so once you've selected a previously drawn stroke, we can now edit that path as if it were a line, and just tweak it to make the shape that you want. So we can edit the path. This shape, it's got a very square bottom, so it doesn't bend around the path. So you might want to do the same trick that you did with the circle. Or we can edit the spacing. Let's just edit the spacing for now. So any line path that you've previously drawn, let's get out of this edit tool, and let's go back in with the edit tool again. So select the brush stroke and select the edit tool, and as you'll see, you can edit the path as much as you like. So if you select a node, you can delete it, a little bit like most vector tools. If you've ever used something like Inkscape or Illustrator or Affinity to draw a path, it's pretty much the same, although it's a little bit more awkward to use than one of those professional vector editing tools, but you can still achieve the same effect. So once you've drawn the path, you can edit the path with the editing tool, and you can design the nib or the stroke with the tools, with the brush tools. So you can make some pretty nice stroke effects for your UI panels or whatever it is that you want to make. The node editing tool has snap in and clip in and axis lock in. So if we go in and select a node, we can drag with the axis with axis lock in, and if you want to move one of these control points, that's got angle snap in, so you can precisely edit each path. If you need more shapes, you can look in the library. So we've got the Egyptian brush. I'm dumping this all on the one scene. Perhaps I should have imported it as a new scene. So you can see, so we've got these brush shapes. Let's select this. This little icon here will transfer this to the brush tool and set the brush tool. So if you've got a brush stroke that you've already drawn, you can select it. Let's select this and send it to the tool. Let's set this to white so you can see, and then you can draw your patterns. So another feature in this update is the SCML properties dialog. So I'm going to go ahead and import a sprite from the site. The site library import was added in the last version, but there was no video, so you might not have noticed that. I'm going to import the Cyclops boss pack. So this character has a spriter import, so let's load it as a new scene. And as you can see, it's built that scene for us. If we go to the main, we can see there's the Cyclops SCML folder, so that's the spriter file, SCML file, that's the spriter file, and we're going to click on it, and as you can see, this now has its own property. As before, like most components, they have their own properties in the inspector. The SCML now has its own property, and this is going to display for us the files that Spriter expects. So I'll just show you briefly what that does and why it does it. So if we open this, it expects 12 files, and it's found all those files. So arm, upper, top. So this is telling us that it's found all those files. So now we can go ahead and select all these. Let's select the skin, for example. Let's just quickly change its color. Pop that there for a moment. Well, let's have a blue color. Let's set the luminance a bit darker and a bit more saturation. Okay, so we've got the blue skin. Now, if we go back to our spriter file and we open our SML, we can export that folder structure. So notice how we changed the color of the skin. Let's download it. And let's come out of full screen. Let's go to there. Let's open that and extract it. Okay, and if we open our folder, you'll see that it's built exactly the same folder that Spriter will expect. So if you've got Spriter, then you can use the editor to make your edits on the body parts and export with the Spriter export, and when you open it, you should see that the changes are exported into the PNGs, and any color changes that you made are now in the Spriter. So if you've got Spriter, you can make all your changes in the editor and export like so. Let's close that, go back to the editor. So if we delete this, for example, and we delete this, and we get these and we put them in this category, and then we go to check on the Spriter export, it's going to tell us that issues were detected, and here you can see that this folder, so this image is missing from the scene, so there's no, because we deleted that. So this is going to warn you if the file structure is not what the Spriter file expects. So if you export this now with these warnings, you'll open Spriter and there'll be missing sprites, and you'll get warnings in Spriter. So this will tell you previously if you need to fix something. So this image was missing from the scene. And let's have a look at the head. So this image is in the wrong category, so it's not missing. Let's see if we can find it. So this, it needs to be put back into the correct category. And the mouth, this is in the wrong category, so we can fix that and put these back in head. And have a look again and see. Yep, so the head is now corrected. So these, well, if we go back and now run, we should see that it's all ready for export again. So this is going to tell us if the file structure that Spriter's expecting is wrong or if it's good. So if you're downloading the assets from the site, then I will have already organized these. As you can see, everything's as expected. So if you go deleting things and you want to export into Spriter later on, then you'll find that Spriter will throw errors saying that there's missing sprites. So those are the main changes to the editor. There's been quite a few more improvements. You might notice as you use the editor. If you want to see the full list, you can open the changelog from here. We will leave, and you can see the full change list as well as all the other previous changes going back to last year. So those are the main changes. Thanks for watching. I hope you like them. Goodbye.